Hello and welcome to the Curiosity and Consciousness podcast. The intention of this podcast is to open your mind, get curious about yourself and connect to the power you hold within. I am your host, Karen Maloney, an inside-out coach, helping you to believe in yourself and manifest your desires. Check out the podcast, available on all platforms, and go to my website, www.karenmaloney.com for all info. Welcome back, everybody. It's me, Karen Maloney, and my guest, and we are so excited to have you join here again today. And like I mentioned on last week's episode as well, before we jump in, I just want to invite you to leave a review for the podcast if you've ever enjoyed it, learned something from it, or just want to share it with someone who may need it. I would love if you would leave a review on Apple Podcasts to help the podcast reach more people. And as a thank you, I'm going to pick one person each month from people who leave a review and give them a free one-on-one 30-minute silent counselling session. So I look forward to seeing your reviews. And joining me today is Miguel Candelas, and Miguel is a life coach in transformation and also an anthropologist. Since very young, Miguel was passionate to understand how belief systems are created, inherited, and how they shape a human life and build an identity. His curiosity led him to study communication, anthropology, and languages. When he was 23, a major event happened in his life. His father suddenly died of a heart attack. They had not been in touch for 3 years, and when Miguel finally decided to contact him, he suddenly died just one day before they were supposed to meet. Suddenly, he lost all meaning in his life. He packed a bag and went to India, thinking that the meaning of life was somewhere there waiting for him. He had many wonderful experiences on his travels that helped him to discover other belief systems, religions, rites and rituals that have enriched his spiritual journey and the human connection with nature. He was in search of the meaning of life without being aware that actually it was attainable right inside of him, deep within. Now his mission is to empower you so that you can live your life to the fullest potential. And in this conversation with Miguel, he shares some of his own journey and how he lost his dad suddenly at the age of 23, and then went travelling for what he thought would be a month or two and ended up being 2 years non-stop. He embarked in this trip to try find happiness and meaning in life again, but what he actually found was the light within himself. He talks about gratitude, living in the present moment, serendipity, and he also talks about belief systems, what are they, the roles we play, and how in order to be really authentic and be our true selves, we must embrace our shadows. And as he talks about, shadows are not the opposite of light, they're the absence of light. And as we make more and more space for the light within ourselves, we come back to our own authenticity and truth. So once again, lots of juicy stuff in this episode. And if you would like to connect with Miguel, his website is www.migcandelas.com. That's MIGCANDELAS.com. But as always, I will have all links from the show notes on my website, karenmaloney.com, and click the podcast section. Bye. Welcome everybody, and thanks for joining us for another episode. And today I have Miguel Candelas. I didn't ask you beforehand if that's how you pronounce your surname, but you're very welcome today, and thanks for joining us first of all.
Thank you, Karen. Thank you for welcoming me. Yes, actually you pronounce my name very well, Candelas, which means candle in Spanish. Yeah, light. I'm very happy to be with you today.
Amazing. And I'm excited to connect with you as well and talk about some of your work and your background and your journey so far in this life. But yeah, maybe if you give us a little introduction to yourself, first of all.
Yeah, sure. So, I'm Miguel. I'm a life coach in transformation at this moment. I have studied anthropology. I hold three master's degree, and I was working for several years for the United Nations, for instance. I did some missions around the world, like humanitarian development program here and there. And at the end, I decided to just put all this knowledge and travels and all this experience into something very meaningful to me, inspiring individuals. That's how I came to coaching, and that's how I became a life coach.
Thanks for sharing that. And I love how you said at the start, at this moment, you're a life coach and work with helping people to transform. And from some of your past experiences, what were some of the big events or the highlights that really helped you to harness some of your learnings and support others with them?
Yes. So I say at this moment because actually we never know what can happen in life, you know.
Hmm.
And one of the biggest moment of my life when I was 23, and I was studying my second master degree, and my father just suddenly died. It was very difficult. Honestly, at that time, I didn't know that all what was going to happen just after this is past, you know. But I suddenly got confronted with the meaning of life. Like, why are we here? What am I doing here? Why am I studying this master? What I'm gonna do with my life? Because in a sudden, I lost it all. I lost my. I
Mm.
mean, I didn't talk for my dad for 2 years. I was that kind of stubborn teenager, I would say. And after 2 years, I decided to talk to him. So I took a flight because I was living in Spain. He was living in Belgium, and I decided to say, "Hey, Dad, I would like to touch base with you. Just say hi and see how it goes. Can we build a relationship?" But then when I had it on my phone, he's like, "Okay, let's meet on Monday." It was on Wednesday when I called him, but he died on Sunday, and he was completely healthy. He just died of a heart attack. So imagine, I was just comforted by this, and I was just 23, and I didn't expect he was going to die. Of course, obviously, who could have expected this?
Yeah.
And here I am. What to do with this? So I finished my master, and then I could not work. I could not do anything with my life. So I just took a backpack, and I went to India. I was like, okay, I need to find the meaning of life. And at that time, I thought, okay, the meaning of life is there in India,
Mm.
somewhere in the Himalayas, or I don't know, close to the Ganga River. I have no idea. I didn't have any idea at that time, but I needed to find something to get back the meaning of life because I was completely lost.
Mm.
I would say that was the most powerful moment of my life. And after that, I kept on going and going, like, where is this meaning of life? Who I am? Who am I here? I don't know. So I kept on, I didn't know that. I thought I was going to travel a month or two, but then I traveled for 2 years
Mm.
non-stop. Then I went to South America. I spent time with shaman. I spent times in Burma. And in the end, I was like, okay, I got very exhausted traveling here and there, of course. But I enriched myself with so many beautiful, incredible experiences that at the end, that's how I went into anthropology, because I felt like, okay, I want to put all this experience into something meaningful for me. And then I get to study a new master degree in anthropology, because I also like study and learn
Mhm.
stuff, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
So and that's how I went to at the end to I got to work for the United Nations for missions, because I thought like, okay, now with all these experiences, I would like to help others to get a nice, important and meaningful footprint for the next generation. And that's when I started working for the United Nations afterwards.
Amazing. And, I think when any of those questions, and I'm sorry for your sudden loss, but when any of those questions start to come up for us of what is the meaning? What am I doing here? Who am I? What is all of this? That's when we can really, it can be quite challenging. I know for me it really was as well. It was like this existential crisis. And you said that you went to India hoping that you'd find it there, and you kept traveling hoping that you'd find it in all these places. But what did you come to find eventually that is the meaning of life? And where did you find it?
Yeah, that's actually the question. I think that's
Yeah,
the real
the
question.
big, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, the big one. And for me, and I would say for me, because I actually believe that everybody has his own
Mhm.
journey. For me, the meaning of life was within myself. It was inside of me. So I kept on going to look for something greater and amazing in the outside without being aware that actually everything was within. So that's when I realized that when I started meditation, actually, that's when it started a bit like the seeds growing and growing, where actually these questions were slowly getting lower and lower because I felt like, okay, the meaning of life, I don't know. But my meaning is that I want to have a positive impact for others. So based on that, I was like, okay, as I say, I was working for the United Nations, but then I soon realized that I was not having the impact I was expecting. And that's how slowly I left the organization. I left the United Nations, and I went through coaching programs and becoming a mentor because I thought like, okay, rather than try to change the group and the mass, I felt like maybe it's better for me, and I felt it's more powerful and meaningful to touch the heart of someone.
Mm.
And how I believe that we can connect, because what is actually common for everybody is that we all want to be happy, isn't it?
Mm.
We all
Yeah.
want to find happiness. We all want to be happy. We all want to be healthy. We all want this. And that's why I realized traveling, staying with communities like in South America, in Africa, in Southeast Asia, and so on. I was like, what do you want in life? It's like, I want to be happy.
Mm.
And this quest of happiness is like, okay, if that is the common point, like, what doesn't make me happy? What will make me happy myself? And then I didn't know. I thought that, okay, I was going to work, have a position, a good work, a good job, recognition by the
Mm.
community, society, like master's degree and all so on. But then I felt empty. I was like, okay, I didn't really feel the meaning like for in life of that. So I started questioning myself like, okay, deeper, like, am I a good person?
Mm.
What is the meaning of suffering, of my suffering? And what is my connection to the world around me? And do things happen for a reason? And how can I live my life in the best way possible? So all these questions start raising up and raising up. The more I was working for the United Nations, the more I was getting to these questions. And yeah, that's what I started realizing. And I get to work on myself first before
Mm.
pretending that I want to have an impact, positive impact to others.
Yeah, that's great, and I do agree. I think it is individual to a lot of people, but I think there is that overall bigger connection of we are all just in this human experience wanting happiness and love and ease and joy and all those things, and it absolutely does start from within first. And I love that you said like work on self first, because that's
Mm,
absolutely my belief and my path as well. And I even tell every single client that I work with, I'm like, my real work is on me first and
mm.
foremost. When I do that, everything else can flow easier. But that's the hardest work, me with me. But it becomes easier as you go. And that aspect of working on self first, and just jumping back for a moment, the sudden passing of your father and then going traveling. How did you process that grief, that sudden loss? And how did you come to terms with, and maybe even that question, do things happen for a reason?
Yes. I would like to quote Rumi. Rumi say, if the light is in your heart, you will find your way home.
Mm.
And I believe that's what I was missing. It's like I was looking for my way home, but I thought the light was in the outside. And suddenly, I mean, for grieving my father was most important. I wanted to talk to him. I didn't talk to
Mm.
him. I didn't have the chance to say everything I wanted to say, even that I love him. So I heard that in some communities in South America, that was in 2010, there were some shaman out there, that they were working in the invisible with the invisible world. So I went there. I was like, okay, maybe I will find my father there. And indeed, I did, because so I went to South Peru and Bolivia, etc. And I remember, I mean, it's a long story, but to make it short, one day I saw my dad, and I
Mm.
was not the only one to see him, and that was the most amazing experience of my life. It's like the shaman that was not speaking Spanish, so he was speaking Aymara. So his
Uh-huh.
son was always with him to translate, because I don't speak myself Aymara. And But the son that didn't take any ayahuasca, because we were doing an ayahuasca journey, he saw my father as well.
Wow.
And there was also the wife, because it was not like these communities, like it was very informal.
Mm-hmm.
And we were the four of us. And what was the most incredible is when the wife, so that she was not even taking, and she was not doing any ceremony either, she was just there. She said, "Why don't you talk to him? He's just there right in front of you." And then I was like, okay, I'm not the only one to see him actually.
Mm-hmm.
So that time, I feel so lucky and blissful that had the chance to talk to my dad and to tell him everything I wanted to tell him, and to just open my heart. It's that day I would say that I was born again. And that's when the grieving process could finally start again, because I was holding something within that I could not get over it. It's like the guilt, the shame, the guilt, and all these energies that I was not able to move any forward. Despite I was traveling the world, I was stuck. I was stuck. So that's why I really like Rumi quote. We say, if the light is in your heart, you will find your way home. That day, the light entered my heart. And just talking about it, I have goosebumps and I have all these shivers. It's like that was a very powerful moment. And about coincidence and stuff, like I love serendipity. Charlton Heston once also says, like, sometimes life drops blessing in your lap without you lifting a finger. It's like, okay, from the outside we could see that we can see that losing my dad was very terrible indeed. In the moment it was, but it was a blessing. It was a blessing. And that's why I always say, at this moment, I'm a coach. I always try to bring everything back to the present moment, because we never know what's going to be tomorrow, but we can make use of our past as something to inspire our present moment. And that's why I call my present a gift. It's a present, right? So I really, every day when I wake up, I say, thank you, Dad. You did the best thing you could do in your life to give me this opportunity to grow through your path. And every day I'm grateful for that. Every day.
Wow. That's beautiful. And when you were sharing as well, I got goosebumps. And, that really is it. Like, everyone has been through challenges, difficulties, struggles. And in the present moment is where the peace is.
Yes.
And it's only through our thoughts that we keep ourselves stuck in the past, and these emotions that we're not able to move through, like you mentioned as well, the guilt and the shame and everything that we carry within. And in order to release that, in order to start our healing process and then be able to see the gift in, or the blessing in what happened, and find the gold and grow from it and evolve. And, that's the work. So then how do you help people as well in your work to maybe begin that process, or even just to make changes in their life, or to come back and connect within and know themselves from within, without having maybe traveled the world or spent time with
Yes.
shamans or done ayahuasca? How do you help that process with people?
Yes. Well, I believe in authenticity. I believe that without being authentic, we can't move any forward within ourselves, or having any relationship of any kind with others. That because that we put on mask and we just play role, so it becomes a game.
Mm-hmm.
But the first thing I do with my clients, for instance, is just like focus on authenticity. That's for me the root, the soil. Because as I say, if you hold a mask, I was holding a mask myself. Like I was
Mm-hmm.
thinking that happiness was somewhere, or I was believing that something was great there. Okay, of course, I found a shaman. But at the end, the shaman, you know what he told me? He said, I didn't do anything. You're the one that talked to your dad. He was already there. He was in your heart. I just helped you to reveal your dad that was already in your heart. I didn't bring your dad here. He was
Mm-hmm.
there. So I really work with my clients first to open the heart. That okay, who are you? How to be authentic? Of course, we live in a society when you work with your boss. Sometimes you can't be yourself all the time. I get this and I understand. But the most important for me is the belief system. So we have all beliefs, like I grew up in a way that my parents were telling me things, and based on these things, I realized that I start believing like, okay, maybe I'm not worth enough, I'm not good enough. And not because my parents were not good parents, it's just because the way the child takes these things in, we just build belief system. And the first thing to do, in my opinion, is to analyze and to find out what are these beliefs. Are there beliefs that makes you feel a good person and makes you going further in the, I mean, positive way, like what we call like enabling belief, or are just like limiting beliefs? That's very important. Like if you feel like you're not worth of love, you will never find the love of your life.
Mm-hmm.
That's my belief, and that's what I think. So the way I approach my clients is that to be authentic. And when my clients ask, okay, what about you? I was like, okay, I will share about myself. If they ask, of course, I'm not going to
Mm-hmm.
expose everything, but
Yeah.
I do share about myself because I don't think there is anything to hide. Everybody has their own journey. And also, I believe that everybody, we all have our struggles, our stories. And there are stories out there that are very difficult and terrible. But I believe that what connects us is the heart. And how to get into this heart is by being authentic enough to say, okay, I have everything in within. It's just a way to open my heart, be authentic, and being courageous to look at it. And just, it's there. All the resources are within ourselves. So we don't need to travel the world for me. I believe that to
Mm-hmm.
find these resources. And I help people in convincing them and that they can get to these resources very easily with key questions, exercise, coaching practices. It's really possible.
Yeah, I agree. And it is that thing of being authentic. And that was part of my journey as well. But it seemed like the scariest thing to own all parts of myself and own all different things that may have happened to me and that I did. And it is this process of, oh my God. And, I can look back as well and say, I didn't know that I was being inauthentic. And I
Mm.
didn't know that I was carrying a mask. And this is often the case. I think we're so oblivious to what we hold within, to what's subconscious, to these beliefs that are actually running us. And the beliefs are so important as well. So how do you help people as well to even know what their beliefs are, or even what is a belief?
Yes, and that's a good question. Like we're not aware that we're holding beliefs. Everybody have
Hmm.
beliefs. That's the anthropologist that is saying this. That's like we can't live without beliefs. That's how human beings are. Now, as I say, we have different kind of beliefs, but we have beliefs even though we're not aware of all of them. Beliefs are the way what you hold and accept to be true, especially without any proof of evidence. So, for instance, I believe that I am not good enough. Based on past experience, I have built that belief because beliefs also are built on past experiences. Some beliefs are built based on past experiences. Some beliefs are built based on what parents have taught us or what school is teaching us and conditioning us, etc., etc. So beliefs system, it's a very thick thing to address. It doesn't take one or two sessions, or even I think I still have beliefs myself,
Yeah.
of course, and everybody does.
Yeah.
What matters is that to turn what are the limiting beliefs into something that can become, rather than to become a limit in your life, it can become something greater that will help you to move forward positively. And that's my
Yeah.
work. I was like, okay, how to see what is your belief? Okay, I believe I don't believe I have any mask, for instance, like as you say, you were not aware. Okay, that's great. But then how can we work on this to see if you're holding a mask or not? And that's how I work with rules. So rules is very important. For instance, okay, you Karen, I am Miguel. Okay, I am Miguel, but what does it mean? Okay, I'm a brother. So I'm the brother, I have a brother, so I'm the brother of someone. But I'm a friend as well. I'm a colleague. I'm a son. My mom is alive, so I'm her son. I'm a friend. I'm a cousin. I'm also an acquaintance for someone. I'm a colleague. So all these worlds are important to see, because if I'm aware of all the worlds I have in my life in one day, for instance, I go to a shop, to like the grocery store. I don't know. I go to buy my in France and Belgium we love baguette, this bread. I go to buy this. So
Mm-hmm.
for 1 minute, I will be a client for buying a bread. But that
Mm-hmm.
means I have a role. Okay, I have to pay money, etc. So it's important to define all the roles we have every time we have an interaction with someone. And
Mm-hmm.
the coaching is important in this case, because then we can put on the table, on the paper, like, okay, to list all the roles that you are aware of. Okay, I'm aware I'm a son, I'm aware I'm a brother. But then it's interesting to go even deeper. It's like, do you think, do you have any roles that you're not aware? Oh yeah, maybe this. And then we go deeper and deeper, and that's where the belief systems lie, because they lie there, because there is like, okay, if I'm not aware, how will I know that I'm behaving the way that people expect from me, because I have a world that I'm not even aware of? That's where the masks are. So because I'm not aware, I put on a mask, and that's okay. We all wear masks. The most important thing is that it takes time. Of course, it's a work to understand what are my duty, my mask at that moment, and do I want to hold that mask all the time? Does it serve me, or at the opposite, is it limiting myself? And that's the question.
Yeah. That's definitely the question. Is it limiting myself? And,
Yes.
and when we begin to ask these kind of questions of ourselves, it becomes really empowering, because then we can observe and be aware of, no, this actually makes me feel crap, or this makes me feel stuck, or this makes me feel whatever it makes me feel if it's not supportive. And then we can question that and be like, is this truly how I want to feel in my life? Because this is all the power we have in our life. We are the sum total of everything in our life. But when we're not aware of this, and we're not conscious, and we're doing and playing these roles, which we all play roles, like you say, in different aspects of our lives. But when we have these deeper beliefs running us that aren't supportive, yeah, once you begin to go into it, it's like, why would I do this? Why do I
Mm,
carry this? And, that's part of it as well, because even as they say, like 90% or 80% of these beliefs as well that we carry that are limiting aren't even ours. We've picked them up
mm.
from family, from society, from culture, from religion, whatever it is. We've just absorbed it and carried it without ever questioning or being curious about it. And I think when we begin to question and be curious, that's when major shifts can happen as well.
Yes. And this is why I was talking about authenticity, The first step of being authentic is like, for instance, when somebody comes to me, or when anybody goes to counseling, therapy, coaching, self-development workshop, etc. I think there is a wish to, because there is a question, right? I want to get something. I want to learn more about me, about myself. So I think people that go to these things, they already have the question like, oh, I want to question myself more. I want to know more about me. So this is when the authenticity starts. It's like, okay, I'm authentic enough to look at my things. And of course, we all have what we call shadows. And we all have things that we don't want people to see. That's, of course, obvious. Now, when you expose yourself, the more you expose yourself through these processes, the more you will bring light into these shadows, because shadows are not the opposite of light. Shadows are the absence of light. That's very important to remember, because we all often think, oh, okay, I have shadows, but I have lights. We tend to see these things as opposites. They're not. It's just the absence of light. So if you want to work in your shadow, the only thing to do is to bring light. And how to
Mm,
bring light? Your voice, your truth. Expose them. Open the door. Open the Pandora box, as you say. But if we keep them there, secret, unseen, and of course they will remain as shadows.
mm,
So for me, the more we expose ourselves, the more we authentic we are with our limiting beliefs or mask and so on, the more we expose them, the more we share them. We get to be courageous as well, I think, because
yeah,
it's not easy to say, oh, I was jealous that day when you saw that man, and I was not really feeling comfortable. It's a part of being vulnerable as well.
yeah.
But I believe that this is important, because the more we expose ourselves, the more we bring light into these corners that usually are not often, or usually they're not seen at all.
Mm,
And why we don't want to do this? Because we're afraid of being rejected. Because we believe that, okay, if I expose my shadow, I will not be loved anymore. I will be judged, because of course our society is very judgmental. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
Let's be honest. We don't live in a world where we can welcome this kind of shadows, and it's just easy to see that anybody is doing a mistake. Is everybody's gonna point a finger on it. So of course we have a pressure, like, okay, we have to keep only the light, but the shadows we have to keep them secret. And here we are in a process where we are asked to expose our shadows in order to bring more light. So it's like, okay, it's too much for me. Okay, let me think about it.
Yeah, yeah,
But
yeah.
there is no other way. I had to expose myself that I was lying to
Uh-huh.
myself
Yeah.
with my dad, that I was thinking that I was okay and I was just looking for my happiness somewhere. But I was lying to myself that I was actually feeling guilty, ashamed, not worth enough, the worst son of all the times. I was not facing these things. And so I was
Mhm.
traveling and I was having nice experiences. I was in front of a beautiful scenery, I don't know, landscape in Himalayas or in Africa. I remember in Madagascar or even in Peru, in Bolivia. I've seen wonderful things just because by seeing these things, I was not asking myself the right question. I was just
Mm.
escaping myself. So the day I decided to finally, I got exhausted. I mean, I was very tired. So at the end, I had no choice but just to face it.
Yeah.
And when I stop, it's when all these things bubble up again. And I had to face my shadows. Either I was putting them inside a box, which I did at the beginning. But then, as I say, I was very lucky to find on my way a shaman that was helping me to put this out. And this is why I'm working now as a coach, because I believe that there is a way to get through this by exposing ourselves, being vulnerable, courageous enough to say, okay, nobody is perfect. Perfection is a myth, and just be yourself, expose yourself, let the light come in. Let the light come in. But if you want to let the light come in, you have to open it. There's no other way.
Um, Yes, and oh my God, so much of what you said there reminded me of my own journey. And I actually just wrote down a word as you were speaking, and then you touched on it at the end, this idea of lying to myself. And
Mm,
that's what we're all doing in one sense,
mm,
but we don't often know it. And the hardest part was me getting honest with myself, me
mm,
admitting to myself and
mm,
honoring all these parts that I had shut down or blocked out or didn't want to acknowledge or admit. And it was all to myself. It wasn't that I had to go shouting from the rooftops and to every person I met, going, oh, and this happened and this happened and this is who I am. Woo, look at me. I'm so authentic. That wasn't what was true for me as well. But it's once we admit it to ourselves, we feel safer sharing if we desire to share or if we're in a space where we want to be that extra bit vulnerable. But the journey, again, like you mentioned at the start, it's all within. It's within ourselves, for ourselves, first and foremost. And with all this change, and when people become more authentic or start to recognize some of their beliefs that may be running them, how do they begin to change them?
yes. Well, the first step, as you say, is to be authentic with yourself. Like, if you lie to yourself, you become a liar to others. And I don't want to say that everybody's a liar, but I believe that we all hold something that we're not aware, and it's
Mm-hmm.
okay. But the day you become authentic with yourself, the day you will be able to face these things, these challenges. And it reminds me one of my clients. She's a Lithuanian girl, and I mean, she was 20 some late 20s, and she had a belief that her dad didn't love her. So we went to these beliefs together, and she was honest enough to expose it, because it's very not easy to say this or so. But then the further and the deeper we were going, I remember one day I asked her the question, because I was using comparison, like, okay, that day and that time, this time, and because a belief, as I say, sometimes is built on repetition. Once, okay, I got hurt by fire. Once I got hurt by this, and then I believe that it will always be that way all the time. And we often recognize beliefs when we use always, never. Because when we use this word, it means that it's unshakable. It's always like that. So when my clients often use these words, I always this, I often this, it's like never like this, then you know there is a belief underneath most of the time. So I just to come back to that woman, like the girl, she say one day after 2 or 3 sessions, she realized that actually the love language of her dad was not her own love language. You know, there is a nice book called The Five Love Languages, and so there is physical touch, word of affirmation, act of service, quality time, and I forgot one. So the way her dad was giving her attention was not something she was understanding, because gift for her were like he wants to buy me, you know, he wants to say sorry for something, he wants to buy, but the love language of a dad was just to buy gift because that's how he expresses love. And sometimes we don't meet each other on the same way we love, on the same way we express our love, or the same way we express ourselves. So that's an example, but that's also a way how we are in terms of relationship of any kind, not only about love, but of any relationship. So the way you express gratitude, the way you express recognition or trust, or the way you express respect. Of course, there are some ways that if you insult someone, of course you can say that I respect you, but that's some extreme. But in some cases, we don't understand each other because there is also a jargon for languages, a matter of languages, the way we express ourselves. When I say language, is not just about words, but also about behavior. So coaching is very interesting in this matter because we address these questions and we put in light all these things that we're not aware. And the more we question ourselves, so you know, one question comes to with another question. It's like, okay, if that question is resolved, suddenly there is another question that will come up. Yes, that's how it is. So that's how you go deeper and deeper. So I've seen how people got transformed with just these questions. And of course, there's exercise. Sometimes I go in with the body. You know, I practice meditation for already 18 years, and I mix my coaching practices with meditation because I also believe that we have to go through the body, because no matter how you understand with your mind, if it's not understood and if it's not embodied at your body level, it will be repeated anyway. So I also work at the body level with some, as I say, exercise with, and sometimes my clients are like, why do you want me to do this exercise? I
Yeah.
thought I was just going to sit down and be
Yeah, yeah,
quiet.
yeah.
And I ask questions like, no, 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 now you're going to jump.
Mm-hmm.
I also sometimes create exercise, especially for the need of the person, because it reminds me one guy. He was like, he's like, I don't like to dance. I hate dancing,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't like to move my body. I was like, okay, that's fair. It's like the way you are. It doesn't matter. But what he was not aware is that he was actually stuck because in his childhood, in a sudden, because there was an earthquake when he was, I think, 2 or 3 years old, and he suddenly he got frozen. He freeze, you know, and he went to this freezing mode that remained in his body. And the deeper we went into this, he realized, oh my God, I'm still carrying this moment, and I even don't remember, because then we went through the processes and he started having memories coming up back. And he asked his mom, he says, yeah, when you were 3 or 4, there was a small earthquake, but the mom just freaked out and took the baby out of the bed, and
Yeah.
and he got shocked somehow.
Mm-hmm.
And now this guy loves to dance. And it's amazing on how we are not aware sometimes of things, but how through this process of questions, but as I say, question to the mind, but question your body, question your heart, question the different levels of your being. Because what is a human being? We're not just a brain. We agree on this. We're not just a brain, and we're not also just a heart. If you go further and deeper into spirituality, talk about the soul and the soul calling, and if you believe in reincarnation, whatever your belief system is, we are more than just one thing. And I believe that coaching that works into these different aspects, not only on the mind at the mind level, but on the different levels of the body, mind, soul, no matter depending on where is the person is. Because you can't say I never say that to my clients, you have to believe this, you have to believe in reincarnation. I believe myself in reincarnation, but everybody has their own belief, and the first thing is that we get to respect everybody's beliefs. That's very important, because sometimes in the spiritual world, especially, I see how we tend to become, in the name of spirituality, we become righteous. Like, I know, you don't know, you have to follow my belief system because my belief system is right. And we just get to repeat the same what our ancestors were doing. And we're never gonna get out of this. For me, the most important is to respect everybody's beliefs. As I say, they are, as long as your belief system is not limiting yourself, I don't think this is a bad thing. If you believe that whatever it is after death, that's make you feeling good, that makes you your day every day like getting positive aspect, like why not? Why not? There is not one belief that is accurate and true. I believe that everybody has their own, and we get to respect each other with this. And I approach my clients with this, like, first I enter their world, because if I want to understand, I get to first enter their world. And then when I'm there, when the vulnerability is there, authenticity is there, then we can start working together.
Yeah, and I agree. And as you say, you know, whatever we believe, because that's our power as well. We can believe whatever we want, but as long as it's supportive and conducive to our life and others around us, you know, that's okay. And I love that you mentioned as well about body work, and that's definitely an aspect in my work as well, because I was that person. I lived my life frozen as well. I was totally shut down, not connected to my body, and it's so vital because that's where our subconscious mind is. That's where all these programs are being run from. And
Yes.
this is even again how unconscious things are, because I had this I'm not enough running me, and I felt so unworthy. But consciously, I did not think that. I thought, no, I am good enough. And I had the conscious thought that I was enough, but my life was showing me very different circumstances. It was not aligned. And that's, you know, when you go deeper and you explore, it can be so mind blowing. It's the journey, and it becomes more fun. And you've shared so much today as well. And even just as a last question, from all your travels and having spent time with shamans, different indigenous communities, Buddhist monks, and different groups around the world, what do you see are some of the commonalities?
Happiness. Happiness. We all want to be happy, as I say, and connection.
Mm.
How connection is important today. We were not aware of this, but I'm very amazed of all these communities I've been to, because no matter what, they connect to each other. And I believe our modern society, sometimes we lose this. It's interesting that we create every day, there is a new device, a new phone, a new program, and with this to connect each other, but we're getting so disconnected. Isn't it ironic? Like,
Yeah.
I spent 3 months in Indonesia in a community where there was no electricity every day, and these people were so connected to each other. They were, spontaneous. Anytime they were feeling something, they were just sharing. They were this no mask. I was like, wow.
Mm.
And yet they were living like very. It was amazing. This is one of the most experience I had as well. It was in a small island called in Ambon, in the Moluccas, in the eastern part of Indonesia, close to Papua. And yeah, they were like so connected. And I found this also in South America when I spent a couple of months in Bolivia in the community as well. And here we are with, as I say, with devices, try to connect each other. What is the common thing is to connection, what connection with others, but the first connection is connection with yourself, connection with your heart, and through this connection, you will connect to the greater self, to God, as we call, to the universe, or to something greater than ourselves. Through the relationship, through the exchange, interchange with others. So I would say that what is this connection? Is love. This is
Mhm.
love. I mean, for me, connection and love are not disconnected. And the way we connect, of course, authentically, with authenticity, this is very important, with no walls, no mask, the pure. As a child, look at your children. They are the best teacher we can observe from them. We can learn from them. They have no filter. Whatever they feel, they express. Whatever they want, they say. Until age 5 or 4, you know this is amazing. I always enjoy to observe them, because we get to learn from them, because we lost this spontaneity, and we lost this they don't think about it. They're just courageous because they just in the present moment, and they are just themselves. They just be. And I believe that this is where humanity has to go. We get to go back to this purity of being in the present moment, being spontaneous as a child, playful, and true, real.
Yeah, that love, that magic, that innocence. And it is possible, even as adults and even as the world as it is, it absolutely is possible. But that's each of our own decisions and journeys. So thank you so, so much, Miguel, for sharing today. Wishing you all the best, and thanks for joining today.
Thank you, Karen, for this wonderful exchange. And yes, thank you so much. I'm very happy.
Thanks for listening. And before you go, I would love to ask you a massive favor. If you enjoyed this episode or any episode of the podcast, I would love for you to leave a short review on Apple Podcasts to help it grow. If you could do that, I would greatly appreciate it.